Today, we are diving into one of the biggest questions you can ask, but we're going to look at it from an angle you've probably never heard of before. We're exploring cosmic origins through the lens of something called the postmodern unified theory, or UPT. So, you might want to set aside what you think you know about the beginning of everything.
Where did the universe come from? I mean, it's a question that feels almost impossibly big, right? For most of us, the first thing that comes to mind is a single massive explosion. But what if that's not the whole story? What if there's another way to think about it?
And that's exactly where UPT comes in with a really unfamiliar answer. It paints a picture of a universe that's completely self-creating. One where all the rules, all the structure, it all just emerges from within. So, if that's the case, where in the world does a universe like that even start?
Well, the UPT model doesn't kick off with a bang. Instead, its starting point is a concept called the void condition. And this isn't just some abstract idea, it's the actual foundation, the starting block for everything that comes after.
So what exactly is this void condition? Well, it's really defined by what it doesn't have. Try to imagine a starting point with no laws of physics already written, no cosmic clock ticking away, and no space for anything to expand into. This is a big deal, because it means there can't be an external creator, no concept of a before, and nothing on the outside giving it a push to get started.
Now, to be super clear, this void is not the empty space you picture between stars and planets, and it's not pure nothingness either. Think of it more like a conceptual boundary condition that says, hey, we're starting with no pre-written rules and no outside help. It defines a universe that's totally self-contained, without a beginning or an end in the way we usually think about it.
Okay, so from this really unique starting point, the theory says that everything in the universe just appears. And it all appears as two fundamental groups, or root groups, that are basically the ingredients for everything we see.
And right out of that condition, the two core components of reality emerge. On one side, you have what are called foundons. These are the fundamental seeds of all matter. And on the other side, you have Tanling, the built-in, conscious principles that guide how things get organized. Now here's the really crucial part. Neither one comes first. They appear at the exact same time, like two sides of the very same cosmic coin.
All right, so we've got our ingredients, but what's the cosmic engine that actually builds a universe out of them? How does it all come together? Well, according to UPT, the whole process is driven by one single unified mechanism, vacuum expansion. It's a pretty neat three-step process. First, each phi-ondon, every little seed of matter, generates its own local vacuum field around it. These are like tiny pockets of space. Second, these vacuum fields just naturally expand. And this is the key. UPT says this expansion is the one force behind everything else in nature. And third, as these expanding fields start to bump into each other, their boundaries interact, creating pushes and pulls. That's what causes matter to clump together and build structures. And this single mechanism is supposed to work everywhere, at every scale. It's the same dynamic of vacuum expansion and boundary interactions that builds everything from tiny atoms to stars and even the huge web of galaxies. It's a truly unified model right from the very bottom up.
So let's get to the key takeaway. What really matters here is how radically different this is from the origin story most of us are used to. UPT is offering a fundamental alternative to the whole idea of a single moment of creation.
And this quote from the theory just nails it. UPT does not require a single explosive event. Instead of a universe exploding into being from a single point, it describes a cosmos that just arises as a whole, with all its parts and all its rules emerging from its own internal nature.
Let's just put them side by side to see how different they are. The standard story often starts with a single explosive moment. UPT starts with a boundary condition. In one, matter is created from nothing. In UPT, matter appears as a fundamental ingredient. In one, the laws are kind of baked in from the start. In UPT, the laws emerge from the process itself. It's a completely different way of looking at our universe.
So really, this is the big philosophical shift that UPT brings to the table. A self-contained, self-organizing universe where everything we observe, from matter and space to the laws of physics themselves, is just a natural consequence of its own fundamental being. So that's a quick tour of the UPT origin story. It's a universe that isn't born in a single instant, but one that emerges from its own nature. It's a pretty wild idea. And it leaves us with a question for our next explainer. What do you want to see? Should we dive into a visual simulation to see how this process actually looks? Or should we go on a tour of the signs that this theory predicts we could find out there in the cosmos? Let us know what you think. Thanks for tuning in.